Today is February 24th, 2014. My name is Cheryl Walker. I'm with the Illinois State Library, and I will be interviewing John Pearce.
That's correct.
John was born on 1/14/1954. John was in the U.S. Air Force from 1976 to 1985. 1985. Oh, did you make a career?
No.
Okay.
Part of that was Air National Guard.
Oh, okay. Okay. And John, your highest rank was?
E5.
5. Okay. At this point, would you like to share your story and your history of your service time with us?
No, I'd be happy to, sure.
Okay. Go ahead and start.
Well, I lived through the Vietnam War as a civilian, but when I was 19, they gave me a number at the lottery. My number was 256, so I didn't have to go. But I wanted to serve my country. Once the Vietnam War was over, I wanted to be a firefighter, and the Air Force had the best schools. So I enlisted in 1976, which I thought was a good time, the 200th year of American liberty, and went through basic training at Lackland Air Force Base, and then up to Chanute Air Force Base in Illinois, and took my firefighting training there. And I asked to go overseas. I put in, they have a wish list. I put in a wish list for every base overseas I could ask for, and they sent me to Louisiana, which from a guy from Tucson, Arizona, seemed like a foreign country anyway. But it was wonderful. I was at Barksdale Air Force Base, the home of the 8th Air Force, the headquarters of the 8th Air Force. I was a firefighter. And firefighters have to take a school for every truck that they drive. They have to take a school for arson investigation, for refilling fire extinguishers, everything. And they were all up here in Chanute. And I went to one school and I graduated honor student. And they said, the guys back there said, oh good, we'll send John to every school we possibly can. Because it reflects well on the base to have their guys be, number 1, 2, or something like that in each class. And that was nice because my whole family's from Waukegan, Illinois, where I live now. Except for my little part, I was born in Arizona. My folks moved out there. So I would go to Chanute, it seemed like every 3 months that I was in active duty at Barksdale, and take another class, which was a week-long class, and then I always did well in it. The best thing was the rescue school, because firefighters are like in one classification, but then the next one is to be a rescue man, or a firefighter / rescue man, and they were like the elite. And I went through rescue school, and everything was going great. I thought I was finally going to get to be sent overseas when they really started phasing out the Air Force firefighters. And it's all government service now, or almost all government service guys. And so they asked me, if you'll take 6 years in an Air National Guard unit, you can go back home to Tucson, work at the airport. And I was working toward my associate's degree in fire science at the time. And they said, we'll give you another stripe, and we'll help you pay for the rest of your education, because they were paying for it at Barksdale Air Force Base, but now I would have to pay my own. So they paid for the rest of my education to get my associate's degree in fire science. And so I took the Air National Guard, which was wonderful, got to go back home to Tucson, which I wanted to do. And I had a separate career there in entertainment. And so I went back to Tucson, and the nice thing about the base there, that was the 162nd Tactical Fighter Wing, was that we were a teaching base. Other fire bases from all over the country would come there to be taught, because the weather was so perfect we could train all the time. You didn't have to worry about rain or snow or anything like that. And so I learned a lot by being a teacher, and we also volunteered at several smaller departments around Tucson, and made some money on the side being firefighters for the Tucson Dragway, for the drag races, and it was a lot of fun. But the reason I got out of it was I was an entertainer, and I was doing something that needed more hair, which is funny considering as how I have none left now, but and a beard. I needed a scruffy look for this entertaining I was doing, and so I ended up getting out of the Guard, because as a firefighter and a member of the Air National Guard, you have to be clean shaven, you have to have your hair cut. So I ended up leaving it, but very glad to have served my country.
So you spent little less than 10 years.
Right.
Okay.
It was 9 altogether, 3 years active duty. And what they did was they took the other 3 years of my active duty commitment and said, if you'll take 6 years in the Air National Guard, we'll transfer you over to the Guard. So 9 years altogether, 3 years active duty. I would have stayed in, except for when I got back to Tucson, that other career was beckoning, and so I took it.
Okay. And did you go back into firefighters?
I did some more volunteer work after that, but the other career took off real well, and it's hard to be a firefighter with long hair and a beard. And I did some volunteering and stuff, and kept my paramedic. I was a paramedic as well. Another thing the Air Force paid for was to go to paramedic, EMT school and paramedic. It was fantastic. It was great duty. So I did a little bit of it here and there, and drove an ambulance a couple of times when I needed, some extra income. But I kind of moved away from it. Plus, I also hurt my back, and it's tough to be a firefighter and move the hose around and climb up and down ladders and everything with a back injury. So the other career that I did is I was a stuntman in Western motion pictures, and I hurt my back, which is not unheard of. But I did that until well into my 40s. A little bit different. But the reason I've got down there the President unit citation, we had a fire where they had an oil tank on fire. It has a lid that moves up and down with the level of the oil with a rubber gasket. Well, it got struck by lightning or whatever, and it was burning all around that gasket, and it was almost going to explode. So they sent a hose up that long spiral staircase that goes around those, and all it could do was chase the fire around. It couldn't seem to stop it. And I'm on the ground going, boy, am I glad I don't have to go up there. And then they said, the guys from my truck, go on up and get 2 hoses and try to put it out. And we finally did. But toward the end of it, the whole thing was shaking, and we thought it was going to blow up, and we thought we were all going to die, frankly. Guys were up there saying the Lord's Prayer, and it was very scary. But we didn't, and we got a presidential unit citation for it. And that was hairy enough. It's tough being a firefighter anytime going into a building when everybody else is running out. But we also had to train not only building fire department, we had to train to be airplane firemen, which means a plane is crashed and there's jet fuel everywhere and you've got to walk right into it. We had the silver suits, which were great, but I was burned a couple of different times and had something fall on my head and cracked my head open even with the helmet. So it had its moments. I don't know what was more dangerous, doing firefighting or stunts in Western motion pictures. But here I am today. I'm 60 years old. I'm still walking around, so I must be doing something right.
Why is Chanute the only place that has a training?
Well, that was the only place in the Air Force that trained firefighters. It was also where they trained jet engine mechanics. Now, there might have been more than one of those. I don't know. Also where they trained the security police, and I think that was the only place that trained the security police as well. I think it's probably a budgetary thing, and now Chanute has been closed down. It's gone, which is a shame. That was a nice base. I enjoyed being there. Aren't cell phones a pain in the neck? I hate mine. Oh, well.
So, what made you decide that being a firefighter was the career that you wanted to take?
Well, my girlfriend through high school's father was a firefighter, and I knew I wanted to do something like that, maybe police work, maybe firefighting, and I chose the firefighting basically because of him. He was a great guy, and it seemed exciting, something worthwhile to do. And I checked around, and everybody said that the Air Force had the best firefighting schools. And it was great because, like I say, you had to learn 2 different types of firefighting. You had to learn to drive 2 different types of trucks, because the truck that you would fight a building fire is totally different than the one you would fight an airplane fire with. And I wanted to serve my country. That was very important to me. My father was a career Navy man, World War II, on an aircraft carrier in the Pacific. So there was never a doubt I was going to join the service. I just, waited till I was a little bit older. I was 22 when I went in. Most of the guys were 19 or 20. I was one of the older guys in the unit. But it was exciting, I'll say that.
Did you ever fight a airplane fire?
Yes. Yeah, we rescued some British guys. There was an air show at Barksdale every year, fantastic air show, and they brought in one of their Vulcan bombers, and they had fuel bladders, rubber, and one of them burst, and so there was an in-flight emergency. So we ran all the trucks out to wait for them, thinking they would just be fuel everywhere. Well, it caught on fire, and I was a rescue man at the time, and we pulled the guys out, saved their lives. Nobody was hurt very bad. Few burns here and there, and they came later on to the fire department, and with their British accents, they were talking to us, and they gave us a couple of cases of beer, which of course we couldn't drink on duty, but it was so funny. They told us, "Thank you so much, and whatever you do, don't put that in the fridger." And we're like, refrigerator, okay, drink at room temperature. We said, yeah, sure. And of course, the minute they walked off, we put it in the refrigerator. But I found out years later, I didn't even know what it was. It looked like motor oil, and it was Guinness Stout. And later on, I tried Guinness and went, oh, this is pretty good. But at the time, I was, 22, 23 years old. I thought it tasted horrible. It was too harsh for me. But yeah, we saved those guys, and we had several in-flight emergencies where we had to pull people out of planes, and a couple of B-52s had some problems. They're old airplanes. They work on them hard. And, that sort of thing. We had a couple of structural fires where we had to go one time into a barracks and get everybody out and fight the fire. And yeah, it was exciting. The hardest thing, I think, was we had a forest fire. Barksdale's a huge base, and they've got a lot of land that's just natural. And we had a forest fire out there, and we had to go out and fight it. Well, the bunkers, or the firefighting suits we have, are those heavy-duty ones that are reflective, the silver ones. They weigh a ton, very thick, and it was the middle of summer in Louisiana, probably 90 degrees and 90% humidity, and having to fight those, that was the hardest thing, and very dangerous because the trees were exploding. The sap gets so hot it starts to expand, and there's nowhere for it to go, and the tree explodes and throws splinters that are like 2 feet long all over the place. Yeah, and I was riding on the back. Now, this is the old days in fire department. I was actually standing on the back little ledge. Nowadays, they've got 4-door trucks where everybody's inside. But I was standing on the back, and we came around a corner, and the driver lost it. We went through a ditch, through some bushes and everything, and we're standing on the back, and we've got the helmets with the face shields down, thank God, because one stick came across and hit my face shield and cut right across it, and right almost all the way through this very thick plastic. And if I had my face shield up, it would have cut my face like that. And so, it was exciting times. And we even had to rescue some people from some alligators one time, because they were out there feeding the alligators little bits of hot dog at a party, and the alligators came up after them, and they ended up having to get up on picnic tables and on top of cars, because these alligators were looking for more food. We had to go out there with the fire hoses and chase them back into the swamp. It was exciting. Louisiana was great. The people were great. The food was great. Barksdale was a wonderful place. It's just humidity in the summer and cold in the winter.
Now, is it still open? Is the base still open?
Yes, that's one of the biggest bases we have. When I was there, I don't know about now, but when I was there, we had 8, maybe 9 B-52s fully loaded with nuclear weapons, ready to go at a moment's notice. And so it was very strict. That was the Strategic Air Command, and it was very strict. Everything had to be by the book because there was nuclear weapons on board. When I went to the other base in Tucson, the Tactical Fighter Wing, that was the Tactical Air Command, and that was much more relaxed. And we were National Guardsmen. We were there weekends, and a couple times we went TDY, or temporary duty, to other places to learn and stuff. But like I say, a lot of the other fire departments came to us, and we were a teaching base, and it was great. And here the other thing that's really important is when I got a little bit older, started to have health problems. I went to the VA, and they were perfect. They were so wonderful to me that now I volunteer here at the hospital, and I work here. I'm in housekeeping. So I've got a job. I'm building up more of my federal service, and at the same time I can come in and help the veterans. So to me, this is perfect.
So you're an employee of the VA.
That's correct.
So you're adding on service time.
That's right.
To your veteran time.
That's right. And getting paid very well with a lot of very good benefits. It all came about because I started volunteering first. And then I got to know some people, and then I learned the procedure on how to apply for a federal position. And I started here in 2009, and I got this job last August in 2013. And I'm going to stick with it. It's great. I can come in here and be with my veteran friends and volunteer and help out veterans, and then go to work. And then, some people say, well, don't you have anything to do? I said, well, yes, of course I do, but I can only watch so much TV, and I can only read so many books, especially during the winter, when it's really, like today, it's kind of nasty outside. Now, when summer comes along, I probably won't be volunteering as much because I'm a bicyclist. I get out on my bicycle and ride for miles and miles, so I'll be doing some of that. Got to keep in shape in case there's a fire.
Now, what do you volunteer and do here?
I volunteer here at one of the entrances to the hospital, and what we do is we take appointments for the guys to use some of our electric scooters, and we keep the scooters running and clean and everything. And sometimes a veteran will come in, and maybe he's too elderly, he really can't even drive the scooter. We have a stock of wheelchairs, and we take them to their appointments, and then move them if they go into pulmonary and then primary care. We make sure they get to their appointments. And so we're greeters, and we give a lot of directions because it's a huge complex. And we're friends with a lot of them. A lot of the guys just want to come up and talk. They may have an appointment at 10:30, and they'll stay till 3 o'clock after their appointment because maybe they don't have much of a social life anymore. And so they come and talk to us, and we just take care of them.
Now, are all the volunteers here veterans themselves?
No, not all of them. One of the guys that working with me today, is not a veteran. He just wanted to help out the veterans. But most of them, probably 90%, are. And there's over 300 volunteers in this hospital complex alone. They couldn't run the hospital without us. And some of them do. They move information around. Some of them are couriers, moving paperwork around the hospital. And we have a big banquet every year, and I'm surprised at how many there are. They have a nice meal for us and give out awards and everything. I might even be wearing one of my awards today. I don't know if I am. No, it's not on this one. But they give you 500-hour pins, and I've got a couple of those. And I'm going to continue on. I can't see why would I stop. I love it.
Now, how many bases were you stationed at?
Just the two, Barksdale Air Force Base and then the Tucson International Airport. I wasn't one of those guys that moved around a lot. To begin with, they don't move firefighters around a lot anyway. The thing is, you have to learn every building on base. You have to learn every gas cutoff, every electrical cutoff, how to get there, where's the back door. And so firefighters had a tendency to stay on a base for a long time. In fact, that's, I think, probably the reason they went with more civilians, because civilians would be hired at that base, and they would stay at that base for their career. And so they'd really know it, like the back of their hand. Even an airman who was going to stay for a long time would only be there 3, maybe 4 years. And that's about how long it takes. A big base like this, or like Barksdale, was huge. That's how long it takes to really learn the base to begin with. And just when you finally get it all down, then they send you to a different base. You start all over again. So I think that's their reasoning. Of course, they didn't ask my opinion, but I think that's their reasoning for slowly getting rid of the Air Force firefighters and going with civilians. Half the guys, when I was there, half the guys were civilians anyway. They knew the base. And they took care of the airmen when we came in. We went to picnics with them. They showed us where everything was. It's Barksdale's right by Shreveport, pretty good sized town. And they, make sure we knew the area. take care of us. We went fishing and hunting, and Louisiana was nice. I'm glad I did it, but at the time I thought, Louisiana? I wanted Okinawa, but oh well.
Now, did you live on base?
Yes. I lived on base for about half the time, and then I took an apartment off base, and which it was wonderful. They had a street just outside of the base that had all the shops in the world for the airmen, all the restaurants in the world. They would have one night where you'd go in and have all the shrimp you could eat for nothing nowadays, and we would take advantage of that. So yeah, about half and half. I was on base for a while, then I got off base.
What kind of amenities did they have on base?
Well, they had a really good NCO club,
Hmm.
and there was a nice big gym, and so we were able to work out. There was they always had ball games going. I was on our football team. The fire department was part of the civil engineering department, which was much larger. And I was on that football team. They had softball going. They had dances. I mean, there was always something going on. And then off base, Bossier City, which is a little town right outside of Barksdale, always had plenty going on. There was a couple of streets we were not supposed to go on, but of course that meant that we did, because there was a little action going on. And Shreveport's a very nice town, much bigger. You cross the Red River, you're in Shreveport. There was always plenty to do. And like I say, we went to picnics. I went fishing. There was hiking. There was bicycling and hunting, and there's a lot of hunting in that area. We kept plenty busy. Of course, as a firefighter, you're working 24 on, 24 off, so you're going to be busy anyway. And then I think it was about every 10 days, you had 3 days off, so you could put 3 days from one pay period together with 3 days from another. You'd have 6 days. You didn't have to take leave. I could go back home to Tucson. So it went fast. That 3 years went by just a zip. I just wish I could have gone to Italy or Germany or someplace. But
And they just, the luck of the draw didn't get you there.
well, you have a wish list, and the joke, of course, is you can wish all you want. They're going to put you where they want to, and they completely ignored my wish list, and I ended up in Louisiana. When I first saw the orders, it said Barksdale Air Force Base, L.A. for Louisiana. I was 22, not too bright, and I thought, L.A., I'm going to California. Didn't turn out that way. But, in retrospect, I'm glad I did it.
Now, did you stay in touch with any of the guys that you were on the fighting team with?
No, I did not. And I wish I had. I pulled out the pictures the other day of the guys graduating from firefighting school, and the guys that I went to rescue school with and served with at Barksdale. And I wish I had. But the truth of the matter is all those years that I was in Tucson doing that stunt work, those were some of my best friends in the world. And I just this last month got an email from one of them, and I was with them for 12, 13 years. So you just lose touch. I moved from Tucson back up here to be with the rest of my family, but the good thing is once I got in touch with that one guy from the old days, now I've gotten another email address, and we'll start getting back together. But there wasn't emails back in '76, so it was a telephone call or an address. So no, I don't have any contact with them at all anymore.
Speaking of that, how did you stay in touch with your family?
When I was active duty, just telephone. Yeah. And like I say, the beauty of it is they kept sending me from Louisiana to southern Illinois, and I would be up there for training, and I would take a train up to Chicago because my sister, my brother, great uncles, great grandparents, they all lived in the Waukegan area. So the only people back in Tucson were my mom. My father passed away by that time. And so I stayed in touch by actually coming up and visiting them. I'd just take the train into Chicago, then take the north side train up to Waukegan and have a blast. With my little short haircut at the time, and everybody thought I was in the Navy because this is, the home of Great Lakes Naval Training Base. So I had to walk around with a hat like this saying Air Force. I don't know why. We make fun of each other. Everybody makes fun of the Air Force. That's part of the deal. Some of the guys go, you know, you should have joined the armed services.
You were in the service about the end of the Vietnam time?
Yeah, the Vietnam conflict pretty much ended in '75. I went in '76.
How were you treated?
Horrible. It's not at all like it is nowadays, where there's respect for the veterans. There was nobody on television and commercials going, you know, we've got your six, we'll take care of you, the Wounded Warrior Project, which I love, don't get me wrong, but in those days it was horrible. People would say, you served in the service, and I had people spit at me. Around here, walking around with the short haircut when I was in the service, when I would come up to visit Waukegan area or the Great Lakes, North Chicago, they thought I was Navy, and people looked down on you. It was nothing like it is now. I really feel sorry for the guys that had to go to Vietnam and fight that war and then come back to ridicule, and they were very intolerant. It just wasn't very nice the way they were treated. I mean, I'm sure you've heard the stories of, baby killer this and spit on them and stuff like that. I'm so happy that it's not that way anymore. And I'm also thankful I didn't have to go to Vietnam. If my number would have been lower, I'd have been in the Army carrying a rifle in Vietnam, because I see the guys here now with their psychological problems, their physical problems, and their attitude, and I'm glad I didn't have to go through that. I would have done it. I certainly wouldn't have dodged the draft, but I'm glad I didn't have to. It's just, because I grew up with it. People say, I've seen some bumper stickers around that say, if you weren't there, then shut up. But you got to realize, and they have to realize, that war was in my living room every night. Every night it was there. We were watching television and watching the war. And we were as much a part of it as the guys that were there, in a different way, of course. But when I went to University of Arizona after high school, I graduated high school '71, I went into the ROTC program. And there was demonstrations, and they threw things at us, the guys in uniform. They tried to keep us from going to class. They put a ring around the ROTC building. And I grew up with it as if I'd gone. Besides, I lost high school friends in Vietnam. So it's going to be part of me forever. Even though, thank God, I didn't actually have to go over and get shot at. That's why, it's really kind of why I waited until '76. It's not that I didn't want to serve my country, it's that I didn't want to go to a war that, by that time, the last few years, they weren't trying to win anymore. They were trying to pull out. And I didn't want to be in the middle of that. And the way they were treated when they got back home was shameful. And I watch the military and the History Channel a lot. And I love the commercials they have nowadays where they're saying, support the veteran, we're behind you, don't worry. And that's another reason why I volunteer. I want to help.
So do you think it's changing?
Yes. And it started changing quite a few years ago. It seems like once Vietnam was forgotten, or at least pushed to the back, and we started doing some other things with the military that were trying to help people. And not that we weren't trying to help people in Vietnam, but it just didn't turn out that way. And then 9/11, and it's changed a lot. Now veterans are well taken care of. There's people here, the patient advocates that'll do anything for you. So yeah, it has definitely changed, and I'm glad for it. The thing I don't like is that now they're talking about cutting the military down to a much smaller size and not giving them the raises they were supposed to get. And I just think that's a big mistake. Every time we do that and we get a smaller military and that we haven't spent the money, something comes along, and then all of a sudden the people that are cutting your budget are saying you have to go do this and this. But they don't have the personnel, they don't have the equipment. It's a big mistake. Yeah. I'm not a politician, but like most veterans, I lean kind of conservative. Take care of the military, take care of the veterans. If you don't, we're in trouble. We'll see.
Do you think that, well, let me ask you this question. What military or what veteran organizations do you belong to?
Just the VA. I'm not a member of Disabled American Veterans because I'm not disabled. I've never joined them. I had never even thought about such things till I went to the VA hospital the first time to get something taken care of. And then I found out about the volunteer, and I started volunteering. Some of the guys, okay, the truth of the matter is, at one point, some guys wanted me to get into VFW. And I went to several of their functions, and the number one function that they had was eating, but number two function was drinking. And I don't drink. I can't drink, because if I start to drink, then I drink too much. I can't stop. I found that out about myself, so I don't drink. And so I shied away from that. They wanted me to join in the whole thing with the cool hats and all, and I was interested in that, but I can't be around that drinking like that. Can't do it. As I got older and had some problems, I got to the point where I was drinking too much, and it almost killed me, so I said, no, stop. And that's the other thing the VA helped me with. Thank God for the VA. I'd be dead right now. I went to the VA hospital and said, I can't stop, I need help. I want to stop, I don't drink, I start falling apart physically and mentally, and so I start drinking again, and it was a vicious cycle. And the VA, thank God, was here for me and put me in a program, and years later I'm fine. I don't drink anymore. I don't even want to. And that's another thing I do, is try to help veterans who are going through that. Try to help them through that whole thing. Because they'll come up, they know I went through the program, and now I've got a job, and I'm sober, and I'm volunteering here, and my health is great. And another nice thing about it is I get to work out for free at the gym over here. And so they asked me, how'd you do it? And so, I've helped some of the guys. And some people have said you should go into counseling, but right now my plate is full. I'm a housekeeper, and I'm keeping the buildings clean right now. I'd like to move on to something else in the future, because I'm 60 years old. It's physical. Maybe help in one of the different departments or clinics or something like that. But the beauty of it is now I'm in the system, I'm here, and a lot of the jobs, they take from within. So, I'm taking a typing class right now, so I get my typing up to speed. And that's all through the VA. And I don't know what I would have done without it.
Very good.
Yeah, it is.
Very good.
Excellent.
The VA has helped you quite a bit.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. Without that VA program, I might have been dead. I might have been homeless. I might have been in jail. I don't know. I had some place to turn to and walk in and say, man, I need help. And they knew exactly what to do because they'd been through it before. A lot of the guys who have had problems, mental problems, emotional problems, from serving in wars have had a hard time dealing with it. In the old days, they just put you in a hospital and said you're, shell shocked, you're nuts. Now we're more enlightened, and they take care of a lot of guys. The stories are fantastic. In fact, our little newspaper here wants to do a story on me. They gave me a little template, a little questionnaire to fill out. Tell my story, and if I can be an example to others, then fantastic.
That's great.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you'd like to talk about?
No, that's about it. I can't think of anything else. Covered the firefighting and all that, and I was working here and I hurt my shoulder, and I don't want to put in a claim, but I have to, because it's not right. It'll never be right again. I've seen some guys do some things and even brag about the fact that they were using the system. They were getting the money, and it really wasn't a problem. And I think that's fraud. So I wouldn't want to do that, and that bothers me a little bit. But human nature being what it is, people are going to do something like that. There's not much you can do about it. I was very hesitant to put in a claim for my shoulder, but You know, I can't even put a backpack on anymore with my left shoulder. I can't get the rotation around. You know how you have to put your arm through the. So I don't, and it gets worse.
Well, at this time, I would like to thank you for serving our country, and I would also like to thank you for giving me the time for interviewing you, and also giving me the honor of interviewing you today.
Thank you.